Hi, welcome back to the second hour of this Thursday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. You know, the reality is, I want to play a couple of sound bites from John Kerry, then we'll go back to the phones, 888-589-8840. Let's have clips 1 and 2 ready to go, Rob. You know, John Kerry yesterday saying that Arab countries are willing to step up to the plate, they're willing to pony up, and they're willing to fund our entire effort. You know, one of the problems here is we're broke. We don't have the money for this military exercise. Congress is going to have to appropriate some additional money if we're going to start bombing Syria. The money is not in the defense budget to do it. That's why this authorization vote is so critical. We'll talk about that here in just a second. The votes, it looks like, are just not there. I mean, President Obama's fixing to get a big, huge, monster black eye on this deal. And then the question that Rand Paul asks, he was pressing Kerry this on the other day, if you're not going to abide by this vote, because Kerry's been saying the president doesn't have to go to Congress, Obama's been saying I don't have to go to Congress, I'm doing this as kind of a courtesy. Well, no, this is a constitutional requirement. It's not a courtesy, Mr. President. You're obligated, required by your oath of office and by the Constitution, by the people of the United States, you're obligated to go to Congress to get authorization for the use of military force. You're not being a nice guy. This isn't a magnanimous gesture on your part. This is not you being polite. This is not you being courteous. This is you doing your constitutional duty. And it's just absurd that he's being praised for doing this. This is his job. It would be an impeachable offense for him not to do it. It's sort of like praising somebody for not robbing a bank when they were thinking about doing it. So anyway, I forget where I was going with this. Anyway, so John Kerry's out there saying, look, we got all these Arab countries that are going to pony up. They're going to pay for this. Not going to cost us a dime. We'll just drop some missiles on them. We have no idea what the objective is. Nobody can say. Remember we had General Dempsey. I played that clip yesterday. What are we doing there? What are we seeking to do there? He says, I have no idea. I do not know what our military objective, what our goal is. I mean, President Obama said it's not regime change. We're not going to go in there to take out Assad. So that's not the military objective. We're not going to go out there and bomb the chemical weapons sites because we'd wind up gassing more people than Assad did or than the rebels did. So we're not going to do that. And the only way you can secure those is put boots on the ground, but we're not going to put boots on the ground. So we're not going to make regime change. So the same guy that dropped these chemical weapons, according to our people, that dropped these chemical weapons on his own people, he's still going to be in charge. We're not going to take him out. We know where he lives. I saw a picture of his palace today. We know right where he lives. We could take him out. We could send a drone in there. We could send a missile strike in there. He's gone. He's pulverized. Poof. He's out of here. But we're not going to do that because we're not interested in regime change. So the same guy that used the chemical weapons in the first place is still going to be there. And we're not going to do anything about the chemical weapons. We're not going to try to blow them up. We're not going to send boots on the ground to go in there and take possession of them. So that means the chemical weapons are still going to be there. I mean, this is insanity. There is no plan here. There is no objective here. There is no mission here. It's just like an empty symbolic gesture. And we read yesterday that the Syrians are moving prisoners into their airfield. They're using human shields. So if we go launch an attack on their airfields, they're not even going to be there. The only people that are going to be there are these poor, helpless prisoners who are going to get turned into powder because we've dithered around on this deal. And they're putting mobile rocket launchers and all that in front of schools, again, doing the human shield thing. So, I mean, to me, this is ineptitude. This is a galactic level of ineptitude and incompetence. Anyway, here is John Kerry, clip number 1, talking to Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. She is a representative, Republican from Florida, about this whole business of the Arab countries paying the freight on this deal. Let's listen.
With respect to Arab countries offering to bear cost and to assist, the answer is profoundly yes, they have. That offer is on the table. With respect to boots on the ground, profoundly no. There will be no boots on the ground. The President has said that again and again, and there is nothing in this authorization that should contemplate it. We reiterate, no boots on the ground. In terms of what do you do if it doesn't work, I think I'll let General Dempsey speak to the question of targeting, which he can't go into in detail. But we have absolute confidence that what our military undertakes to do, if it is ordered to do so, will degrade the capacity of Assad to use these weapons and serve as a very strong deterrence. And if it doesn't, then there are subsequent possibilities as to how you could reinforce that.
Well, what are those possibilities? What are those if this doesn't work, if this doesn't deter Assad, what are those possibilities? He doesn't say. I mean, that obviously seems to me to be boots on the ground. Well, let's grab a phone call before the break. Let's go to Bobby in Waco, Texas. Bobby, welcome to Focal Point. Okay, Bobby, Waco, Texas, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Hey, just got a quick question. You know, last week when you were talking about the impeachment process, of course, there is a form to fill that out. Of course, the government's got too many forms as it is now. That form, does that have to be pushed by a senator or a congressman, or can a body of people actually push those documents to try to get it to the justice system for impeachment process?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Bobby. And the Constitution, and this is correct. I think this was absolutely right, because the Founding Fathers did not want the president to get tied up with frivolous lawsuits. If you go back to Sarah Palin, what drove her out of office were these frivolous lawsuits. A lot of people don't understand the backstory there. They think that she just quit. They had this really bizarre ethics law up there in the state of Alaska that said if you got charged with an ethical violation, then you had to pay the defense out of your own pocket. You couldn't go to the taxpayers. If you committed an ethical violation, you had to pay for your defense out of your own pocket. So it was sort of an anti-corruption deal. Well, what that meant then is that, and there were some people that went after Sarah Palin. They filed one frivolous lawsuit after another. And she had to defend every one of those on her own dime. And she could see there was no end to this. There was no limit to the number of these pointless, frivolous lawsuits. She was going to win every one of them, but she'd have to spend money defending it. So she finally just had to take herself out of the public eye. Now, the founders did not want a president to get tied up with that. So here's the reality, Bobby. The only way a president can be impeached is if the House of Representatives, by a majority vote, votes to impeach the President of the United States. Nobody else can do it. It has to be the House of Representatives. The people can't do it. The Justice Department can't do it. Nobody can do it. The Senate can't do it. The House of Representatives must file articles of impeachment. Now, that's like an indictment. You want to use the parallel. An impeachment's not a conviction. An impeachment is an indictment. And what that means, then, a trial has to be conducted, and the trial is conducted by the Senate. So the House files articles of impeachment like they did against Bill Clinton back in 1998, but then the Senate actually conducted the trial. And in order for a president to be removed from office, 51% of the House, or 50% plus one of the House, that's all it takes to impeach, but to be removed from office requires a 2/3 vote in the Senate. Not likely to happen with the Democrats. Back in 2.